Okay, picture this. You've got a significant chunk of money, and you lock it all away in a secure vault. Naturally, to keep it safe, you hire a security guard. Sounds like a pretty straightforward, everyday arrangement, right? But what happens when that simple relationship goes completely, totally off the rails? Let's dive into this explainer and find out. So let's look at this guard. You hire him, and you give him one very specific, crystal clear job description. Protect your money. That is his sole legitimate function. I mean, you didn't hire him to spend it. You didn't hire him to redistribute it to someone down the street. And you definitely didn't hire him to sit around judging whether or not you actually deserve the money you just put in there. His only job is to secure what already belongs to you. Keep that locked in your mind. Now, imagine the contrast. You show up at your vault one day, ready to make a withdrawal. And the guard? He's locked you out. You're literally standing there watching him hand your cash out to other people. Worse, he turns around and says he's going to charge you an access fee just to look at your own account. He starts dictating what you're allowed to buy with it, and demands you fill out a massive stack of paperwork before you can even touch the property that is 100% legally yours. Your natural reaction to this absolute absurdity wouldn't be to just quietly grab a pen and fill out the forms, right? No way. You'd immediately stop the guard in his tracks and ask him point blank, wait a minute, who do you work for? Because you're the one who hired him. You are the owner. He's supposed to be the employee. But instead of apologizing, the guard just looks at you and says, well, over time, we developed inherent authority to manage all this. Inherent authority? Are you kidding? You hired him to guard the vault, not to own the whole shebang, not to redefine your property rights or control when you can access your own stuff. And if he tried to justify it by saying, well, hey, the other guards all agree that I have this authority, you would never accept that as a legitimate answer. You wouldn't care what the other guards think. You'd immediately demand to know the actual source of his power. You'd say, where did you get the authority? And according to the analysis in our source text, this exact dynamic, this massive shift from a hired protector to a controlling master claiming unearned power, well, that is the absolute core of America's constitutional crisis. Because here's the thing, government was originally designed to be exactly like that security guard. It was meant to be an agent, a fiduciary, a servant of the people. It was never supposed to be the owner of your rights. Constitutions were explicitly written to define and limit what that servant could do. They ensure the guard never acts like an owner who gets to redefine your rights, ration your access, or convert your natural rights into mere privileges that they just graciously grant you. This brilliantly illustrates the founders' clear vision. Take the Alabama Constitution, for example. It literally states that the sole object and only legitimate end of government is to protect the citizen in the enjoyment of life, liberty, and property. Rights don't come from the government. The government exists solely to secure rights that already belong to you. It's definitely not supposed to place itself above them. And there's a really crucial historical distinction we need to make here. Throughout history, kings claimed inherent authority. They basically believed power just resided naturally in them. But America rejected kings. Instead, the founders built a system on delegated power. The people are sovereign, meaning they hold the ultimate power. Any power the government has is only loaned or delegated to it by the people. So every single legitimate governmental action has to trace directly back to actual authority granted by the people. But over time, things changed. Today, administrative agencies and courts often act exactly like that absurd vault guard. Courts claim inherent powers. Unelected agencies write rules that have the full force of law. We essentially have a guard who rewrites the vault agreement, controls your access, judges complaints against himself, and then charges you fees to object. We never put up with this in our private lives, yet somehow we're conditioned to just accept it from the government. To really see how a system flips from serving the people to just managing them, let's look at a specific case study from the text, the grand jury. Historically, the grand jury didn't belong to the state. It belonged to the people. It existed way before modern government structures were even a thing. Even the late Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia admitted that the grand jury belongs to no branch of government. It was specifically designed to stand independently between the people and the massive power of the state. Back in the day, the grand jury could independently investigate corruption and protect everyday people from abusive state prosecution. But look at the stark contrast today. Prosecutors entirely control the process, the courts control the procedure, and the citizens on the jury, they're mostly reduced to spectators. An institution originally meant for the people became totally managed by the state. It's a perfect example of procedure replacing law and the guard becoming the owner. So, how do we push back against this massive shift? Well, the explainer suggests we need to completely change the questions we're asking. Stop asking, has the government been doing this for a long time, or is this standard practice? Because let's face it, standard practice doesn't automatically equal constitutional legitimacy. Instead, we have to ask one foundational question: where does the authority come from? And here is how you actually put that into practice. First, identify the specific power the government is claiming over your rights. Second, demand to see the exact delegation of that authority. And third, trace the chain. You've got to trace that chain of authority all the way back to the sovereign people. Because in a constitutional republic, powers must remain limited, and the servant can never, ever become sovereign over the master. Which brings us to a really powerful distinction. If the government claims authority over your rights, it should be able to point to exactly where the people granted it that power. If it can't, if it just relies on this vague idea of inherent authority, then the problem isn't that citizens are being disobedient. The problem, by definition, is usurpation. The government has taken a power it was never actually given. The founders never intended for Americans to have to beg the government for their rights. The government was hired to secure them, not manage them, and certainly not own them. A vault guard who locks out the owner and just freely distributes the owner's property isn't acting as a protector anymore. He's crowned himself the master of the vault. So, we leave you with this final thought on the true cost of complacency. If ultimate authority truly rests with the sovereign people, what happens when we forget to demand proof of it? The very moment a free people stop asking, "Who gave you that authority?" is the exact moment they stop being free. It's definitely something to think about the next time you interact with a vault guard.